Hello everybody, this is Sodhi from CAAN Wings Consultants Private Limited. Today I'm going to be talking to you about whether you can travel to Australia or apply for a migrant visa. So very recently we had some good news again. We've been hearing a lot of good news ever since the new migration year started, that is from the 1st of July. So this bit of news pertains to the travel restrictions from India being returned to global settings. So what that essentially means that Australia now feels that probably the number of cases in India, the COVID cases, are not enough to pose a threat, and therefore they have removed India from the high risk countries. So what does that mean to you in terms of traveling to Australia or in terms of applying for a visa? I'm going to be talking about that. So basically with this announcement comes an understanding, and a lot of people are still quite uncertain and confused about it. So what this essentially means, what this announcement means is that temporary visa holders who are actually in Australia can now depart from Australia anytime, and they cannot return to Australia until the borders open. So please understand there's a difference here. Though India has been removed from the high risk countries and they've been there's been ease in travel restrictions, this however does not mean that the borders have been opened. The borders still remain closed, and of course the free movement will happen only once the borders open. But at this point of time, those temporary visa holders who are stranded in Australia can come back to India at any point of time. What it also means is that there's certain class of peoples who automatically get an exemption for inward travel, that is for traveling into Australia or traveling out of Australia. Who are these people? So these people who are now free to travel into Australia at any point of time are of course the Australian citizens, the Australian permanent resident holders, anybody who has an Australian PR, the immediate family members of an Australian citizen or an Australian PR holder. So that is a huge relief for a lot of people who've been kind of stranded in India for a very long time. Now, for a lot of other people who are probably not fitting into this list, they can apply for individual travel exemptions. Those who feel they're stuck in India, they can apply for an individual travel exemption with the Department of Home Affairs. Now, what I need to also tell you here is that there are some temporary visa holders who can also travel to Australia now, provided they are working in an occupation that is on the critical or the medical services list, or if their occupation happens to be on the critical list, or if their occupation happens to be on the priority skills list, that is the PMSOL, and they have been sponsored by an employer in Australia. And also some university degree level students who are studying dentistry or probably nursing or allied health programs these students can also now travel to Australia. Now, what is the spin-off with this news? Now, that is what I need to share with you. The spin-off here is that with this announcement coming up, we now do expect that 190 nominations are likely to be rolled out for offshore applicants. Since there is no travel restriction for 190 applicants, the states will now be able to roll out and invite offshore applicants to go ahead and apply for a 190 nomination. Also, what that means is that those whose occupations are listed on MLTSS's medium and long list, and STSOL should be able to get a nomination from any state. Only those applicants whose occupations are on the ROL probably will have to wait for a while, but those with the occupations on the MLTSSL and the STSOL can look for the states inviting them to apply for a nomination, or the states opening up nominations for offshore applicants. This news also means that partners of those who are permanent residents of Australia, like we had many applicants who were given the partner migration but could not travel earlier, can travel to Australia now. And of course, those who are getting the global talent visa can also now travel to Australia anytime. Now, a question that I usually get from everybody in the comment section of the YouTube is usually about applicants. They're very eager to ask as to what's happening with their applications. What about the ones who already got the visa? So, see, a 489 visa is basically a provisional permanent residence. So they will not qualify to travel to Australia at this point of time. Therefore, those who have got a 489 visa should go in for an extension, and the Department of Home Affairs will have no concerns issuing an extension to such people. And let me tell you here that those who will be issued the visas now, whether it is a 189 visa, it is a 491, 190 or a 489 visa, all these visas come with an initial entry date. So the initial entry date can be up to 12 months. So when your visa is granted, you obviously have up to almost 12 months to actually make your initial entry to Australia. And let's say if you fall under the temporary class or the provisional class and you're not able to make your entry by the arrival date, then you can always get an official extension from the immigration department so that you can travel at a later stage. And I also need you to understand this is, and no, this is very important, a lot of people are under the impression that probably since the borders are closed, that also means that Australian immigration is closed. So there is no point in starting the process. And then we have another group of people who are very keenly monitoring the nominations. They're studying the states, and they think that probably, until and unless the states are offering them a nomination on a platter, there is no point in getting started. Now again, let me tell you here, I've been saying this in my previous videos also, this is not how it works. Look at it this way. When you apply for an Australian migrant program, the usual time frame is at least 9 to 12 months. At least 9 to 12 months. If you bifurcate the time frame, so we are looking at a timeline of about 3 months, up to 3 months for a skills assessment. And then we are looking at about 1 to 3 months for a nomination, provided the nomination is available. So this is where the delay in the processing comes. It's not that the processing time takes very long. It's just that by the time you end up getting a positive skills assessment, it may so happen that at that point of time, the nomination may not be currently open. It may open after a while. So that period is what causes the delay. However, once the nomination is open, it doesn't really take very long. The states usually process the nominations between 1 to 3 months. And then comes the visa application process. And as you're aware that 491 being the priority visa, it's not supposed to take more than maximum 5 months for this visa to be processed, and the other visas can take a bit longer. So when we are talking about immigration, we are talking about a long-term process for which you can begin now. It has nothing to do with the borders being closed. It has nothing to do with the embassies being closed. Now you need to look at it this way. Australia is open. The migration process is open. It never closed down. It never shut down, even for a day. You will be surprised to know, many of you who do not know, that even during the pandemic, when there was almost a shutdown throughout the world, the skills assessment by the various assessment bodies in Australia were on. The state nominations by certain states at this point of time are on. Of course, most of them are on for onshore, and some states have been nominating clients for offshore despite the situation right now. The DHA applications are on, which means that you can apply for an application, be it a 189, 190 or a 491. So the application portals are on. You can lodge a visa application at this time. You can get your medical done. You can undergo your health examinations. They are not closed. And then the visa grants are also happening. And since in an Australian immigration case, there is no involvement of the Australian embassy, there is no process that has to be taken up at the end with the Australian High Commission. Everything is done in Australia, and whatever is being done in Australia is on. So a migrant should have no concerns about the embassy being open or not. This is a concern with the visitor. This is a concern with the student. This is not and should not be a concern with a migrant. So with this, I hope you have had some sort of clarification on the updates and the overall general scenario about migrating to Australia. I look forward to hearing from you. Please share your CVs on CAANWings@gmail.com, that is CAANWINGS@gmail.com, or you can also email us on inquiries@CAANWings.com, or you can give us a call on 78498 and we'll be happy to answer your queries and assess your eligibility for skilled migration to Australia. So until next time, I'll be with you with a new update, and hopefully a great update. Until then, bye bye and take care.